top 10 teams of the week going into week 16. Last week, we did our rankings. Looked pretty good. They're pretty similar to this week. There was one major change. So before we get to Colin's, where we'll react to him, let's look at mine from last week. Last week, here they are. Or this is this week, excuse me. Philly, KC, Frisco, Bengals all stay the same. Now, I will say this. A lot of y'all are going to say, James, Jalen Hurts isn't playing, all right? Jalen Hurts done got hurt. There's no way the Eagles are number one. True. We don't know the severity of the injury. I'm filming this on a Tuesday, December 20th. We don't know the length of the injury. If it's one game and the Eagles win, right, then they are the best team still. So there's no way I can downgrade them just off of the Jalen Hurts injury. Now, if it was like, hey, he's out for the season, then I'd probably downgrade them. Or if they lose the Cowboys, then I could probably downgrade them to 2 or 3. So I understand, obviously, the Eagles aren't the same team without Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying that, but my rankings are a little different as far as, like, I'm not going to take them from 1 to 8 just because Hurts is out for 1 week, if that makes sense. Now, the real tough part is 2, 3, and 4. Because I think Cincy, I could see Cincy at 2. I could see Frisco at 2. I could see KC at 2. These 3 right here, 2, 3, and 4, they're all, I think, definitely deserving of the second best team in the NFL. If Jalen Hurts is hurt, I think 2, 3, or 4 all could be number 1. I mean, I think 1 through 4, Eagles, KC, Frisco, and Cincinnati are all like a step ahead of the rest of the NFL, including Buffalo. I think one of those 4 teams will win the Super Bowl. These are the 4 right now that I think this is pretty much the head and shoulders above the rest of the NFL. The one big change from last week, you'll see Dallas dropped a little bit here. You'll see Baltimore went up. You'll see Minnesota went up. You see Miami has dropped out of the top 10. We said that could have certainly happened by losing to Buffalo. Tough loss in the weather, but we also said that was going to be bad for Miami moving forward. We'll be playing in some of these elements. They have Green Bay on Christmas. They have to win that game. Miami's playoff hopes, like I said last week, are kind of dwindling. But the big change here is the Chargers moving up to 10. They've been playing great. Realistically, I probably have the Chargers up around 7 by the time the season ends. I think they probably are better than Minnesota, Baltimore, and Detroit. But, this is a week-by-week basis. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chargers continue to ascend while some of these teams, Minnesota, descend. So let's go ahead and get into Colin's hierarchy and see where we match up.
This is hard.
It's not.
It's go either way.
Not to me.
Stuff.
It's not.
Here's my herd hierarchy.
Okay.
I feel pretty good about it.
All right, let's roll.
Herd hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
Well, they've won 11 games, and they're 10-0 in games to...
Okay, no problem. I had them at 10 last week, I believe. Look, like... we say the same thing every week because they do the same thing every week. They should not be winning these games. The biggest comeback in NFL history, down 33-0, the biggest collapse ever. As true as all of that is, and as true as it is that they are not an 11-win team, that they are not a 1 or 2 seed in the playoffs, they will not win the Super Bowl. As true as all that is, as much as we can see through the smoke and mirrors, the fact is that they still did go and do that. They still went and did that, where they went and had the biggest comeback in NFL history. It's okay to recognize, like, hey, this isn't going to last, while also celebrating what they did. I think that we should celebrate, damn, Kirk Cousins lit it up. Wow, they must be really made of something to go and have that comeback. We don't say that Tom Brady's Super Bowl against Atlanta is any worse than the other ones because he had to come back from 28-3. If anything, it gets celebrated more. So I think it's okay to do both. Minnesota, I'm cool with being 10 here. I wouldn't have them higher than. I probably wouldn't have them higher than 8.
Decided by a score, the Vikings. Their defense stinks, but Kirk Cousins leads the NFL with 7 fourth-quarter comebacks. There is value in playing well late
Yes.
There is value in coming from behind and value in winning
Pause.
close games. 11-3 in the National Football League. You are a good football team.
They're a good team, for sure. They're a good team, but they're not an 11-3. They're a good team, for sure.
Do not have the defensive ability to blow people out. They got to win shootouts. But the Vikings are at 10.
I mean,
Number 9.
I think the Lions are a real deal.
okay, so he didn't have them in there last week. Took Colin a week to get to where I was, which if that's not the most like this channel thing, is that whatever I say last week, eventually the mass sports media does the following week. Detroit's good. Detroit is good. Like let's not beat around the bush, ladies and gentlemen. Detroit is for real. And why they're for real, I'll give you 2 reasons. And it's the 2 biggest reasons in football. Their defense is good all of a sudden, and their offense is good. That's it. They have a good offense and a good defense. That's it. And their biggest hindrance is Dan Campbell. Their biggest hindrance is the coaching, the decision-making, all that stuff. As far as what's on the field, Jared Goff has not thrown an interception in like 200 passes. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the man, right? They have legitimate players everywhere. And defensively, all of a sudden, they're getting stops when they have to. And they have a winning mentality now. They're winning close games. They're winning come-from-behind games. They're winning every different way. They've had a tough schedule. You wouldn't want to play the Lions. You would not want to play the Lions in the playoffs. I would rather play Minnesota than play Detroit in the playoffs. I'll tell you that. The team is good. Obviously, I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. I don't think they're an NFC Championship team. But I do hope they get into the playoffs. I hope that they continue this. It's a great story. I like watching them play. Jared Goff, I've kind of been a Jared Goff truther. So I like the Lions. Finally, they have some stuff moving forward. And I'll tell you this too, Lions fans, because I know a lot of Lions fans watch this channel from the demographic. So shout out Detroit. But if the Lions can end up with a player like Will Anderson or another big-time defensive player for next year to pair with Hutchinson, this is a nasty team. Like, they have something there. Don't get crazy, Detroit. Don't get crazy and act like you need to blow up Goff and go draft a quarterback or do any of that stuff. You aren't a quarterback away. All right, Goff is fine. Goff is figuring this out. I think you need to get more help on the defense, make the defense a legitimate threat, and keep doing what you're doing. I like this team.
Deal here, 3-game winning streak, and what I'm really noticing, Jared Goff, 6 straight games without a pick. Nobody's getting to him.
Guys, I mean, do I do it or do I do it? I just said this last segment or whatever. They're way behind me. I'm talking 200 plus, passes without interception, and then we get this. I mean, it's just
Jared Goff is comfortable. He's a top 10, 12 quarterback in this league. Goff has not taken a sack in back-to-back games.
10 or 12.
The Jets couldn't get to him. This offensive line and these weapons are the real deal. They can win low scoring. They can win a shootout. I would take them today against the Vikings if they met again.
Jesus!
Detroit at 9.
He just said literally everything I said.
Of the Jaguars.
And I worked 8 hours today. I woke up at 5 a.m. to go to work today. I just took off my slacks.
I don't think Dallas played poorly.
Okay, Jacksonville, this is knuckin' fuds. This is crazy. They're 6-8. Okay, they have what am I looking at here? They're 6-8. They are outside of looking into the playoffs. What's happening? I can't believe what I'm watching. I need to hear what he's saying. They're not the 8th best team in the NFL. They're not a top 10 team. I didn't even think about putting Jacksonville in the top 10 when I was doing my power rankings. This is absolutely bananas and pajamas. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has been good. He's been better. But this is crazy.
This is a real team. Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in the league since week 9. Now,
okay, he said this is a real team. Not true. This is a real organization now. This is now something where we thought Big Daddy Peterson was going to come in and kind of get some organization, kind of get things figured out, and turn this into a legitimate franchise. We always talk about it where coaches, I think people grade coaches too much on the field. they have to also be able to structure the organization. Things like travel, decisions on do we stay out West Coast or do we go back? You know, how are you handling traveling to London? How are you handling practice? How are you handling walkthroughs? Are you doing it in the hotel lobby? Do you have a conference room? You know, what all that stuff goes into it nowadays. Urban Meyer was way out of his league doing that. He was way out of his league on the field, but also off the field. When you have a Super Bowl winning coach who can come in and do that's a huge advantage for a young team to have all that stuff taken care of, and they can see how it's done the right way. Then you can become a good team on the field. So I think the Jaguars are becoming an actual organization, and they have their franchise quarterback. But man, he better play good, because Colin has kind of put a little line on the first 8 weeks of the season where Trevor Lawrence was ass. He can be Dr. Jekyll and he can be Mr. Hyde. If Trevor Lawrence can be good for an entire season, yeah, the Jags can be real moving forward, as in next year and the year after that. No doubt about it. But if he takes a step back, a la Mac Jones, it's not going to be pretty.
Now, they lost Cam Robinson, the left tackle, or I'd probably have them a spot higher. That's a big deal. His backside now, they didn't have a great offense to begin with. They can't lose their best offensive lineman. But this kid's the real deal. Since week 9, 70% completion percentage. Not always, by the way, with great protection. Jags at 8.
Number 7.
Dallas would beat him if they played again neutral field, in my opinion.
Yeah, Dallas is. I mean, this is pretty close where I had Dallas. Dallas is good, but Dallas. Here's the deal with Dallas. Dallas went from Super Bowl contender, best defense in the NFL. How good are they? To all of a sudden, they're getting blown out in games they're winning. Right? Green Bay couldn't hold on to a 14-point lead against a terrible Green Bay offense, and then Jacksonville comes from. It was 21-7 in the second, and they come back, or they come from behind in the second half, and they blow out Dallas in the second half. Micah Parsons is no longer the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. If you tell me Dallas has the best defense in the NFL, I'll believe that they can win playoff games and go to the Super Bowl. If you tell me Dallas has an average to above average defense, they can't win the Super Bowl. I don't even know if they can win playoff games. I'd say Dallas is bang average to a little above average, somewhere in there, as far as like what I would consider that like third tier of teams. They're right in there. They're really no different than the Detroits and the Minnesotas. They might be a hair better, but it's not much. So the shine is off Dallas as far as I'm concerned, unless Micah Parsons and unless that defense starts playing dominant again. But when you have a dominant defense, you do not blow 14, 21-point leads.
Losses by the Cowboys have come on the road this year. The Green Bay one's close. This is close. 10 straight games rushing for over 125 yards. I think that's the story. I think they found their run game. Boy, could Buffalo use this run game. Now, well, yeah, Dak is throwing more interceptions. Well, some would argue this offensive line's a work in progress. And after C.D. Lamb, who's a very good receiver, a clear number one, they don't have a ton on the perimeter. But I think Dallas is just outside of the Super Bowl bubble. I have them at 7.
Number 6.
What I just said.
By Miami Dolphins.
Woo! Wow. This is crazy. This is one of those things that Colin does where I'm not sure what the hell is going on here. How Jacksonville's in here is crazy. But then he has the Dolphins at 8 last week. They lose, and now he bumps them up to 6. This is nuts. I mean, if anything, leave them at 8. Get Jacksonville the hell out of there, and then fix the rest. Miami, they went from being they're kind of the reverse version of Dallas. Where at the beginning of the year, it's like, well, if they have the best offense in the NFL, yeah, they can win the Super Bowl for sure. They can win it. But now it's like, if their offense is just above average, then I'm not working with much. I still think they had the best offensive weapon in football in Tyreek Hill. I love Mike McDaniel, but I don't think they're there. I think they're pretty similar, I think, to how I was talking about Dallas, where they're a good team. They're maybe even borderline great, but they're not good enough to win the AFC Championship game or really even compete in it. They're not good enough to win the Super Bowl. They're a little bit away I'd buy stock in Miami for sure. I think the future is bright, but they're not. This ain't it.
Stock. They outplayed Buffalo in lousy weather. This is a good team. They're not a Super Bowl winning team, but like Dallas, they can beat anybody, especially at home. Their defense isn't great, but it's been banged up for a good chunk of the year. Tua's got his limitations. Okay, against good defenses, he completes under 60% of his throws. That's why I compared him to Tebow. He is great with a...
I mean, he ain't Tebow. I'll tell you that. Tua's good. Tua has become too much of a polarizing subject. Like, we can just go ahead and say that Tua's good. You can win a Super Bowl with Tua. You can be the best team in the NFL with Tua. I have no doubt about that. I've seen enough of Tua to know that. The problem is with Miami is that they're just new to this. They're just new to this whole thing. McDaniel's been there for a year. This is the first go of this. This is the first attempt at showing kind of this system and kind of showing what Miami is going to be. Let them get into that system. Let them get into that. Let him get his players in here. Let him build some stuff out a little bit more. Let the players there get more comfortable with this. Then we'll see the true Miami. Right now, Miami's concern should be about getting in the playoffs. It should be about getting into the playoffs, get that playoff feel, that playoff experience, and build for next year and the year after that. I have no fear with Miami as far as them being good in the future. Like at Jacksonville, I've got concerns with Jacksonville because I've got concerns about long-term Trevor Lawrence. I don't have any concerns with Miami moving forward. As far as this year, ain't it?
Defense in a run game. But at home this weekend against the Packers so-so defense, he'll light it up.
They'll win that
Miami,
game. Yeah, they'll win that game.
Sell your stock. They're going to make the playoffs. I have them at 6.
Number 5.
The Bills. Now, the Bills are better, but they were out.
So I have the Bills. I've had the Bills right there pretty much the entire last 5 or 6 weeks or something. That once we started dropping them, I just don't buy it, man. I don't buy it. Now there is two sides to this, right? The first side is I don't think the Bills are that good. The second side of it is that if they haven't been that good, but they're still 11-3, that says something. That says something. The problem with for the Bills is that they have to go through Cincy and Kansas City, who I think are just so much better. So much better. So it will take prime icon version of Josh Allen. I'm talking like Hall of Fame induction the next day levels of play for Josh Allen to overcome Cincy and Kansas City in the playoffs. If they get to the Super Bowl, I mean, then I'll be a believer. But right now, a believer? A believer? Put it on the t-shirts.
Schemed and for a big chunks of that game outplayed at home in bad weather. That should have come on. Miami going up in a blizzard, that thing should be over at half. 3 losses have come by a combined 8 points. What concerns me is they're not always good situationally, and they're highly dependent on Josh Allen to save the day. It's got a Chargers feel to it. Allen's the second quarterback in league history with 50-plus wins and 130 touchdown passes over his first 5 seasons. That's the good news.
They're so similar to me to Baltimore. Like they're one of those. There's one of those teams where if Lamar isn't Superman, Baltimore can only go so far. If Josh Allen is not Superman, Buffalo can only go so far. I mean, they don't even have a scheme. They don't like Miami has a scheme. Buffalo doesn't even have a scheme. Buffalo is just snap it to Josh Allen and let him do cool stuff. They don't really try and do anything. They don't. I mean, Diggs is obviously really good, but he's more of a guy that just kind of feeds off of Josh Allen being awesome. I don't see a scheme with Buffalo. I don't see. I know the roster's talented, but I mean they can't run the football. They can't really play with the lead. It's all just how good can Josh Allen be on any given day.
The bad news is the other guy's Patrick Mahomes, who was ahead of him.
Number 4.
What the hell was that? Did you see what the hell was that, Colin? Watch this facial change.
Number 4.
What the hell? I feel like I'm in a horror movie. That was bananas. Did y'all watch this? He goes from kind of he's kind of laughing, kind of giggling, to he turns into like someone from like the movie Sinister. Look at this.
Ahead of him.
Right here, LOL. Right here, we're having fun. We're goofing and gaffing. We're all enjoying ourselves. It's not a big deal. You're having fun. I'm having fun, right? And then it turns. Now it's starting to turn right here. Now he's looking right at me. He's looking right at you. He's looking at the audience. We're locked in at this point. He's actually kind of sucked my gaze in to where I can't even get away if I wanted to. Like, I'm trying to get away from the screen, of my eyeballs are just constantly locked into his dark abyss that he has for pupils right now. He's drawing me into his dark abyss. And then when you think this is rock bottom, it keeps going. Watch, he takes you even lower into Dante's Inferno. He takes you deeper into the cone-shaped hellscape that is the underworld. So let's take a look at where this goes here.
Nope.
And now, like, he starts to pierce into you. His eyebrows are cursed, kind of pinched in. His lips are puckered. He's pissed. I mean, this is a legitimate anger he's showing here.
Number 4.
The Niners.
Holy shit!
Does it even matter who plays quarterback?
Okay, all right. Let's get back to this. So the Niners at 4. Now, I did say I could see this, right? I could see 3. Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Philly are so damn good that I can see Frisco being 4. I have them a little bit higher, but I'm a Frisco truther. And I'll tell you this too. They're smoking teams. Like, that game in Seattle is tough. That's a divisional game on the road, Brock Purdy against a hungry Seahawks team who have to win that game. That is tough. Like, 21-13, I watched that whole game. I'm here to tell you, they dominated Seattle. I mean, they dominated that game. And it's just one of those things where there's such a well-oiled machine, and their defense legit is scary, legit is the best defense in the NFL, legit is a generational defense. And their offense, when fully healthy, which is not right now, but when fully healthy, you could argue that this is the most efficient offense in the NFL. Is it the prettiest, the sexiest, the most high-powered? No. But it's probably the most efficient, well-oiled offense in the NFL. So, I mean, look, Philly loses Jalen Hurts. We're talking about dropping them how far? Frisco loses Deebo Samuel, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo. They lose, like, they're on their 3rd starting quarterback. And where are we at? They're probably the best team in the NFL. They just keep moving. They keep moving forward. I don't have a problem with it at 4 because, like I said, they can all be interchangeable. But I love Frisco. I mean, y'all know I have a Super Bowl ticket on them. I got it the day after Trey Lance got hurt. I believe I have it at, like, what, I think it's 20. I think it's 20-1, 24-1, something like that. I'll have to double check. I'm pretty sure it's like 24-1, and I feel great about it.
They have 8 wins by over 10 points, most in the NFL. Number 1 scoring defense. And by the way, since they lost to the Chiefs, they're 7-0. Doesn't matter who plays quarterback. They are the most talented team.
That's another good thing. That's another reason I like Frisco and why I like that Super Bowl ticket. They don't have to play Kansas City. They don't have to play Cincinnati, and they don't have to play Buffalo until the Super Bowl. And at that point, who gives a shit? They are on a crash course with Philadelphia. And right now, Philadelphia doesn't have Jalen Hurts. So if you take away Philly and San Francisco, and I told you that neither one of those teams are going to make the Super Bowl, who would you pick to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl? Dallas? Minnesota? Detroit? The drop-off between San Fran and Philly, like those two, and the rest of the NFC is crazy. And that's right now. Whenever Deebo Samuel gets back, it's going to be even bigger. So as much as I love San Francisco, I also love the fact that they are away from those other 3 teams.
Team in the league. They have Pro Bowlers in every single unit. D-line, O-line, running back with McCaffrey, receiver, tight end, safety, linebacker. They may have 2, and corner. They're just really good. You don't have to love them at quarterback. Anybody notice the record of teams the week after they play San Francisco?
This is like the old Alabama thing where, like, playing Frisco beats you up. You're physically exhausted. It's miserable, and teams play worse the next week. This is an old handicapping wives' tale right here. Teams that play like LSU and Bama, like really gritty, physical, powerful teams. You know, teams always do worse the week after.
Watch how beat up they are. They literally beat you up physically, and teams the following week struggle to cover and win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic take dogs on Monday Night Football. You know, like home dogs and Monday Night Football. That was another old like wives' tale. When I was a wee lad, learning the handicapping ropes.
Number 3.
The Chiefs. Here's what worries me.
Again, I'm okay with this. I obviously have them a little higher, but it's it's 1A, 1B with them and Cincinnati in the AFC. Right now, Cincy is hot, so I have no problem with them being above Kansas City. My power ratings are a little different to where I don't like to jump teams and drop teams if they don't like lose or if there's not a reason to drop them. But man, Cincy is on fire right now. I mean, they're playing at a crazy high level. If they played right now, if they played this week, like an AFC Championship game, man, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I might side with Cincy.
Opposing quarterbacks this year, and there's been a lot of dogs, have a passer rating over 99 against the Chiefs. Why does that worry me? Because they may face Josh Allen and Joe Burrow.
Those are weird stats. Like, those are stats that you have to be really situational about because, and I haven't done this research, but you could say like, oh, well, the reason that's the case is because Kansas City is usually up big and they're playing more of a preventative defense and the other team has to throw. So then you get these inflated pass numbers. So that is something that happens. That is something that you see sometimes. You have to go back and kind of look at game scripts, look at situations. If a team, I'll just give you an example. If Kansas City's up 35 and a team is throwing all game and a team scores 21 points of garbage time and they throw, they have like a crazy high completion percentage, crazy high yards per pass, and they're throwing downfield a lot. If you look at it weeks later, you could look at the numbers and be like, damn, Kansas City allows a lot of passes down the field. But then you go into it and say, like, oh, they're facing way more passes down the field, and they're playing much further back to not allow any deep balls. So stats like that can be misleading when you hear them like this. I'm not saying that's the case here, but I'm saying before you take that and do something with it, do some extra research.
Or in the first round, who knows? They could face the Chargers and Justin Herbert. We know Mahomes is unbelievable. There's an argument to be made. He's underrated.
He is. He is. He's got the LeBron. He's got the LeBron syndrome where people are bored with his greatness.
Only Burrow's situational greatness is in his class.
Number 2.
The Eagles O-line, D-line, it's amazing. Now, Jalen Hurts is out.
Yep.
That's why I take him out of the number 1 spot. And I do think sometimes they're reliant on Jalen Hurts'
They aren't. They're not relying on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is amazing, no doubt about it. But they are so good in so many different facets of the game. Like they can run the ball, they can throw the ball. Their defense, their offense. Jalen Hurts is one of a kind, but they aren't reliant on him like Baltimore's reliant on Lamar or Buffalo's reliant on Josh Allen. Speaking of Lamar, I think it's crazy the Ravens are on the top 10. The Ravens are so much better than Jacksonville. That blows my mind. But Philly's awesome. Philly's sweet. Everyone knows what I think about Philly. He mentioned it here. The only reason he docked him was because Jalen Hurts is out. I think that's a little bit of counting your chickens before the eggs hatch because I thought I got my thing mixed up there because I had to think about it for a second. Because if they go and win, you've kind of backed yourself into a corner. I want to see what the team looks like without Jalen Hurts. I want to see if it's still as efficient, if the game is still tight, if the game is close. I want to see that before I start moving him around.
His feet more than his arm, that concerns me. Their defense, though, the NFL best pass defense, best yards per play defense. They're a handful, man. It's just hard to move the ball. It was shocking for many that Chicago even stayed close with extra prep and a good coaching staff. Philly at 2.
Number 1.
I think Cincinnati's the best team in the league. I've been on this for 7 weeks. Situationally, best team in football. 6-game winning streak. Burrow now has time to throw.
I'm not sure what he means by situationally the best team in football. Here's the deal. Joe Burrow is a mercurial player. Like he's Patrick Mahomes. When you have Patrick Mahomes, when you have Tom Brady, when you have players like that, Peyton Manning in the past, or who Aaron Rodgers in the past, you are going to be good. That's why I always say it's a quarterback-driven league. If you have an MVP level quarterback, you got a shot. You got a chance. Teams like Tennessee with a good team, but Ryan Tannehill, you have a ceiling. You go from having a shot to having a ceiling. If Joe Burrow was on the Jaguars ain't 6-8. I'll tell you that much. Joe Burrow is crazy good, and he's only getting better. He's not slowing down. He's got weapons. They got a good defense. The only problem I ever see with this team is Zach Taylor. Their offensive line isn't that great. They've kind of held up recently. If they can start running the football consistently and really take some pressure off of Burrow and those wide receivers, this team's gross. I mean, this team's nasty. This is one of those teams where as long as this core is there, they're going to be a tough out every year. They're going to be someone you will see in the playoffs. And because Burrow is so good and so cool and so in these kind of moments, by cool, I mean like he doesn't feel any pressure or anything. Players like that thrive in the playoffs. 2 minutes to go, he's down 6. I feel comfortable. I know what's going to happen. I saw it with Tom Brady, same exact thing, where Brady's down 3 with a minute to go. I'm not even worried about it. They're either getting the field goal or they're scoring, but he's not failing. It seems like players like that, they just, I don't know, they have something in them, and Joe Burrow has that in him. The Bengals are really good. I don't like Doc in Philly, but I think the Bengals are in that top class of the NFL.
He's completing 70% of his throws. I don't see a lot of weaknesses here. They were totally flat against Tampa on the road, a decent team, and came roaring back. They have 2 running backs, 3 receivers, tight end. Now,
that's something that's important in the NFL, is that when your offense can kind of go into that hyperdrive and you can get points quick, that's a huge bonus in this league. Sometimes teams, and I feel like San Francisco could be like this if they got in that situation. If Frisco goes down 21-0, they're in a terrible spot because now they have to change everything to get points quick. Cincinnati doesn't have to change anything to get points quick. They play the same way. Some teams can just do that. Kansas City can do that. Buffalo can do that, where you're just kind of playing your style, but your style is so good that you can just ramp it up a little bit, and all of a sudden you're in some crazy hyper fast offense that's just closing up 21 point deficits.
Now Burrow's getting protection. Defense doesn't have stars, but usually schemes brilliantly at half and shuts you down. Cincinnati by a nose, best team in the league.
I'm okay with that. Not a bad list here. I think that this Jacksonville situation is absolutely disgusting. There's no way they should be in the top 10. Miami jumping 2 spots forward after losing is crazy town. Losing a divisional game and going forward, don't get that at all. Baltimore should be in here. If you're leaving Miami in, I would drop Miami to 8. I'd put Baltimore at probably 7 and then move the rest up if I was doing this. But not a bad list, Colin. Not a bad go at it.